Psychoneuroimmunology, PNI for short. I mentioned we're going to really start delving into and introducing this idea. Relatively recent branch of science, yes, enforces beliefs that physicians have held for many centuries, they say, well before the times of the ancient Greeks. Isn't it interesting how we're just coming around to realizing things that we probably knew centuries ago in some ways? The premise is that a patient's mental health, mental state influences diseases and healing. Like, duh. Okay, gee, that's a profound statement, but it's true. Specifically, PNI studies the connection between the brain and the immune system. And the origins were Robert Adler. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name right, but he was a researcher at the Department of Psychiatry at the University of Rochester Medical Center in Rochester, New York. 1970s again. Seems like in the 70s is when a whole lot of things started coming together, didn't it? Neurolinguistic programming, all these different things. Bruce Lipton, cellular biology, all this stuff. So in the 1970s, studies by Adler and other researchers opened up new understanding of how experiences such as stress and anxiety can affect a person's immune system. And they're talking about different studies he did here. I'll send you this, so we're not going to go over every aspect of it. But the studies focused on how stress, hostility, and depression impact the immune system. Many conditions such as heart disease, osteoporosis, arthritis, delayed wound healing, and premature aging are related to stress and negative emotions. So every type of issue, disease, condition, syndrome that comes in our office, we don't have to know all the nuances of the medical description of these things. We know that they all have some of these elements, right? That we can affect. We can help with all of these things. And just by interviewing the person, we're going to know which ones are more prevalent, which ones are more dominant. Many doctors have noted that a patient's desire to get well is related to the outcome. Yeah. Clinical anecdotes recount cases of miraculous healing for no demonstrable reason. Greek physician Galen wrote, "He cures most successfully in whom the people have the most confidence," right? So if the person believes the healer, and it says here, whether it's a physician, a shaman, or some other kind of healer, if they have faith in that person, guess what happens? It's very likely they're going to at least have improvement and sometimes have miraculous healings. Just like with Mesmer, and his magnets and wands and all of that stuff, people believed that they could heal if they went to him. So as we know, it's the patient who was healing themselves. Sometimes with a little help from the outside, but most of the time, most of it was coming from the patient. And we all know about the placebo effect. It talks about that in terms of psychoneuroimmunology. And we know that's an inert material or a pill that they give to someone, but they don't know that it's inert. They think it's something meant to help them, and they actually end up getting better. Some researchers believe that as many as 1/3 of all patients will improve on a placebo. That's a lot. That's a lot. More than a particular therapy, PNI is a field of research. So again, it's the study of how do we function? How is this interaction with mind, body, spirit, emotions, energy, all this? How does it all combine to make things happen? However, PNI has explored the benefits of many non-traditional or holistic approaches to healing. And they talk about psychotherapy, biofeedback, counseling, relaxation therapies, and of course they study hypnosis. They didn't put it in that section, but I know that's a big part of PNI. PNI gives credibility to many long-held folk beliefs about the effect of the mind on disease and healing by demonstrating the physical means by which the mind influences the body and vice versa. PNI provides a measure of validity to holistic approaches of healing. And here's a description of what psychoneuroimmunology is. It provides a scientific framework for researchers to investigate the aspects of healing that go beyond standard clinical therapy. P&I researchers look for the physical links that allow the immune system to respond to psychological factors, such as the will to live to a certain date. They look at the ways that mental states such as hopelessness can signal the immune system to lower the body's defenses. So again, if they're walking in and they have hopelessness, they have depression, they have fears and doubts, all of those things, maybe anger, maybe self-hate because they're not good enough. Those kinds of things all weaken the immune system. So anything we can do to turn some of those around is going to start improving their immune system. P&I, by the start of the 21st century, is gaining wider credibility. I'd say by now it's pretty well accepted. It's got all the research, and it is, like I said, it's a research science. Researchers emphasize that they are not simply providing scientific backing for our beliefs that happy people live longer, or that people who hold in their anger give themselves cancer. Instead, they're discovering how the immune system communicates with the neurological and endocrine systems. Yeehaw. Again, science is finally catching up. Studies of cytokines show that psychological factors such as stress depress the immune system, but that deviations in the immune system can also trigger psychological and behavioral changes. The communication goes both ways. It's not just a one-way thing. So it maps complex interactions among the body's systems. And factors studied include mood, illness, immune response, susceptibility to disease, and maintenance of health. In the early years of the 21st century, the United States Public Health Service funded hundreds of research grants in the field of P&I. It's been particularly enlightening for researchers and caregivers who deal with people who have cancer as well as depression. And there's the resources, there's all of the credits and all that stuff. So I will send you this piece. Pretty cool, huh? And again, this is nothing that I think most of us instinctively knew that led us to this field, or we learned and it made sense to us when we started hearing about it, right? Art, did you have something you wanted to add?
No, well, always, but I won't.
Hey, please. I am so happy you're here. And something I was going to say when we first started that I completely forgot, because I didn't make a note to myself, was just something, I just wanted to compliment all of you. And I'm sorry, Stephanie's not here to hear this, but she'll hopefully be watching this at some point before our next weekend. That I am so impressed with the creativity that you all have and the courage you have to trust yourselves and trust your instincts. I was just blown away yesterday. And I could see in the faces of the people that were on the receiving end each time of the person's creativity, how much pleasure and comfort and excitement and peace and relief and whatever all that you were all receiving from that caring of that person that was facilitating your process with you. So I just wanted to say that to all of you. So it's an honor to be one of your many teachers and students. I'm your student too, so you can call me that if you want. I'm both. Yeah. And Art, like I said, I want to introduce you to some people that I really am impressed with. The next thing I'm going to do, though, before I introduce you to Bruce Lipton, because after him, I don't want to follow Bruce Lipton. I got to go before Bruce Lipton. So I'm going to take you all through a process. And this is kind of funny because I have been presenting at conferences off and on through the years, something I developed through my my research work for my degree, which I started the same year that I became a hypnotherapist, so 30 years ago. And it went on for many years. I put a pause in it for a couple of years and then I went back. But anyway, one of the things that came out of my work and my research was something I created called the cellular universe. Again, inspired by Tad James, by the timeline things and the things that came out of that and the way I developed his approaches and techniques. But I call it my own now because it is an offshoot. I mean, everything we do is somebody gave us sparked creativity and we take it and run with it, right? So anyway, it's called the cellular universe. And I had done it for years, like I said, and presented it at conferences and done little processes with groups. And then I was talking about it at a class a year or two ago, and someone said, "Oh, can you send me that script?" So I said, "Oh, sure." I went through my entire database before I realized I had never written down a script for it. So I thought, well, that might be a good idea. And then as of yesterday, I thought, well, I really wanted to do this, but they're going to say, "Do you have a script for that?" And I'm going to have to answer the same way I did last time. That I don't have one. So what I did, I found, you know how they say necessity is the mother of invention back in me and Art's day. Today, there's probably a more modern way to say that, but you get the idea. When the student is ready, the teacher appears as another kind of variation of that. But I needed to learn something new, evidently. So I went into Word, Microsoft Word, which I learned back, in probably the very first version of it. And I found this little microphone up in the corner. And I go, I've seen that for a long time. I don't know what update put that there, but I've never known what it does. So I had a recording of me doing the cellular universe at a conference a few years ago. And I thought, I wonder if that microphone could pick up on that recording. And this morning, only took me about a half hour. I was so impressed with myself because, I'm 71 and technology isn't my strong point. I was so proud of myself. I actually recorded it recorded it in Word and transcribed it. And I have to do some editing on it though, because some of my words, I had to go back and listen to go, what did I actually say? Because I know it's not what it wrote down, but it was really cool. And it recorded the whole thing. And I was like, oh my gosh, and it put it in a Word document. And you probably all knew that was possible. I could have just asked one of you. But it's like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. I had to learn it for myself. Had to discover it for myself. It's much nicer when you learn something on your own than if somebody just teaches it to you or tells you the answer to the question, right? Just like our clients, when they learn it on their own through the process we do with them, through guiding them, all of a sudden they feel empowered because they know it came from them. And we want to reiterate that in what we call ratifying the trance and say, you did that. Look at what you just did. Because we want them to be proud of themselves and know that this came from you. That means who knows what else you can do. Let's find out. Next week when you come at 3:00, we'll find out what else you can do. Okay, so where was I? So I will have a script if you want it of this. And I like to have sounds. Now, I don't know, on some of the times that I've used sounds on Zoom, people say they can't hear it. And other times they've said, oh yeah, I could hear it. And it seems to be on the recordings. So I'm going to give it a shot and see what happens. And this is, I don't usually use melodies or actual, recordings when I do things, because you don't want it to trigger, some memory or something familiar to the person. I like benign things like Tibetan bowls or something, or just something original. But for this is one CD that I bought a few years ago that I absolutely love every single part of it, because it's very, it fits this process so well. It's very stratospheric. I don't even know what words to put on it. So we're going to use this, and I'll make sure it's not too loud. So can you hear that? A little bit? No? Isn't that funny? I wonder why sometimes they can and sometimes they can't. I'm going to turn it up a little bit. I don't want it too loud. No, oh well. So you can just either play music in your head or
Patty, while sharing, there is an option, share along with the sound in the Zoom. If you select that option, then we can hear the music. Else we cannot. Only you can listen.
okay.
While
Well,
It's
that's
like
okay.
while sharing the screen,
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah,
small
I'm not going to play with it now. I'll just let you all go through it without the sound. But I think you'll hear it on the recording, I'm assuming. So we'll see. We'll find out. Okay. Because if I share, then you're going to see that screen, aren't you?
Yes, Patty. When
Yeah,
you're
I don't
sharing,
necessarily want you to see the screen with the little, it's just kind of, well, you're going to have your eyes closed anyways. So with your permission, I will experiment here just for a second. Maybe I'll learn 2 new things today. My brain will be on overload. Oh my goodness, wouldn't that be something? Let's see if I can figure this out. Nizam, I'm going to see if you can teach me something here. Share screen. Can you hear it now?
no.
You still can't hear it.
And while you're sharing,
Yeah.
just before sharing itself, there is an option exactly at the bottom of the window, Patty. You
Okay.
already started sharing the screen. When you click the share screen option, that's when you will find
Share
along
sound.
with- Yes,
I
exactly.
see what you're saying. Oh, okay. There you go. Let's
Now
try-
you play the audio, we can listen to it.
Now you can hear it. Ah! I did learn 2 things today. Woo-hoo! It's not too loud though, right? You can still hear me talking?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. Uh-oh. Art, did you say no?
Can't hear you talking now.
You can't hear me talking? How'd you know I asked you if you could hear me talking? Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you talking on the side, but not from the recording.
No, it's not me on the recording. It's just music.
Oh, okay. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Okay. Weird. You know what? This isn't going to work, so I'm just going to.
That's working great.
It is? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
nice music.
What are you seeing on your screen right now?
Seeing the music description of the tracks on the music.
Okay. That's good. So, okay, after all of that, go ahead and, we talk differently when we are doing a hypnotic process. And yet, I want you to have your own experience based on what you're here for, based on what you've already learned, and based on what might be here that you hadn't anticipated before you even signed up to do this class. So you know how to focus and center yourself. Yes, I know you all do. So go ahead and do that in whatever way you know how to do that. Because you're in charge of your experience, you know that to a point. And yet when you let go, that's kind of when it can really get interesting, can it? So that your intellectual self, your conscious mind, can decide to just maybe be curious for the rest of this experience, which is a new experience here today, unlike any you've ever had before. And even if it's similar, you're actually a different person today than you've ever been before. So it's still new. So this is a good way to start having this new experience. And if you do happen to have a challenge that you're aware of, you might want to offer that up as something for your higher intelligence, I like to call it, inside of you. so that it can help you today in some way that you may or may not be aware of. Today or tomorrow, or maybe even next week, you can know that your unconscious mind, that amazing creative part of your mind, I like to call it our unlimited mind, is always wanting to maintain the order, the balance, the natural flow of your energy, the natural functioning of your body in that perfect way that it's designed to function. It's always moving towards that, isn't it? Because that's its natural thing to do. Sometimes we can get in the way of that a little bit, sometimes a lot. Although, of course, it's unintentional, getting in the way. So if there's anything in the past that's been interfering with you becoming and being in your most ideal state of physical health, which of course goes along with all other areas of health, like mental health, emotional health, spiritual health, or whatever words you have for all that makes up who you are. And sometimes it's nice to close your eyes. And if you want to keep them open, that's perfectly okay too. So any way that you decide to, just focus now on the space that you occupy here today. And as you think about however your creative, amazing mind allows you to think about the space that your physical body occupies here today, it might be interesting to also remember and let your unconscious remind you in some interesting way that some of the cells in your body just arrived here. They kind of, it's like they're just gathering information about what's up, what's going on with this body. And they are being educated, so to speak, by the rest of the cells. You might want to think about it that way, so that they kind of know what the program is, what's going on, what's happening. This is all new. We must be educated. And there are also some cells that are no longer even a part of your body that were here just yesterday, and now they're gone. Most of them, I would guess probably all of them, your body knew how to safely and efficiently rid your body of those because, they had outlived their usefulness. And there may be some other cells in your body that have an idea that is counter to the design, to that perfect order. So just create an idea and that intention to your higher consciousness. Just send it. Send it that intention. So that for the rest of this journey, you might want or just decide to just have fun and enjoy going on an imaginary journey here today. As you again bring your attention to the space you occupy there in the chair or wherever you're sitting. And I know that we've talked about today and in the past, the energy field that surrounds your body beyond your skin. Maybe you've heard of that before. So go ahead and put your attention now on that energy. That is your physical body extending and become aware of that energy field that surrounds you. Now, some of you might have an image for that, or a thought, or a feeling, or maybe just a sense that it's just an inch or a few inches beyond your skin, all around you. Notice how you think about it. Notice how you experience it. And just accept what comes to you. Others might think that that energy field is much larger. However you get it is just perfect for you. So even if it's different than the way you've thought about it in the past, just accept it without question. And again, think about that. Energy extending into that field that surrounds you. That is still a part of you. And now go ahead and intentionally extend that energy. Your mind knows how to do this. Extend that energy to the others in this class that are on this Zoom meeting. Spread it out and incorporate all of the rest of us, all of these lovely, well-intentioned, caring, beautiful people. And just be there with that for just a moment. Trusting, knowing that your higher intelligence is always protecting you from anything that wouldn't be for your highest good. So you can trust and let go. And go ahead and let it take up all of these people here and the entire building that you're in. Now just spread it out so that your energy can expand into the entire building. And now let it spread even farther to incorporate the entire town or city where you are. And as it spreads farther and farther in every direction, it picks up momentum and power and positive energy. Always and only positive energy allowed to expand so that it can take up the entire county or state or country, empowered by all of the powerful positive intelligence and energy as it expands even more, now to take up the entire planet. In whatever way your mind imagines, pictures, symbols, colors, feelings, it doesn't matter. It's perfect. However you're thinking about it, being a part of the energy of the entire planet. And now imagine it spreading out beyond the planet, out beyond the moon. And as it passes the moon, it picks up much more positive, beautiful power, intelligence, and spreads out to take up the entire solar system. So just be there for a moment and notice the farther it goes, the freer, the safer you become, being a part of this beautiful energy as it spreads now out to other galaxies. And as it spreads now to the edge of the known universe, whatever that may be. And at this point now, just imagine being a part of this beautiful, positively charged light energy, spreading out to infinity beyond the known universe, allowing you and the energy and the light to become even freer, even safer, unencumbered by anything, moving into the higher realm of intelligence that's available at this level of mind, and opening up to all of the intelligence of the universe now. It's all around you, And it's all through you without even having to understand or to know what you're gathering. Just trust and know that your higher consciousness is now tapping into, gathering intelligence, information, helpful thoughts, perhaps ideas into your higher mind. And just be there for a few moments, noticing the freedom, the safety, the unlimited quality and peacefulness, the quietness. And give yourself permission to enjoy and just be here now. And with your very next inhale, take an intentional, strong inhale and imagine you're drawing in even more power, even more intelligence, even more information, and bringing back and accelerating and intensifying all of the things that you've gathered as you come back across from the vastness of the intelligence of the universe, gathering momentum even more safely, even more comfortably, the freedom, the information coming back with you into our solar system now, and floating back across the solar system, back past the moon and the sun and the other planets, and just focusing on the planet once again, coming into the atmosphere of the planet and quickly coming back, gathering even more information back across the planet, back into the country, the area, the building, back into the energy field of your room. And all of these well-intentioned, loving, caring people on this call. And if you have some positive energy that you're feeling and sensing, perhaps you have some extra now. So go ahead and allow that extra positive energy that you have to flow out into all of the rest of these wonderful people. In case someone could use just a little extra today, just send it out and trust it. And now bringing that energy back, the awareness, back in closer to your body, closer to your physical body. And allow it to flow now with your awareness, very slowly, very deliberately into your physical body and into the very center of your being. That's right. Whatever you understand that to be. And as you now arrive at the very center of what you understand, the center of your being to be, imagine, pretend, visualize, or just think about the interesting idea that if you could be there, a tiny point of light, of thought, of powerful energy, as if you could be aware that you're right there next to a single cell in your body. Just imagine it. However your mind creates it, it's just fine. And that cell next to you, that cell carries all of the intelligence of you. It's amazing, miraculous, in fact. So imagine now that you can just begin to merge and move right into the center of that cell. Now, And as you merge with the cell, you may even begin to get a sense of wholeness, a sense of completeness, of the ability to tap into an inner intelligence of the highest magnitude, and going to the very center of the nucleus. Now, and even beyond that, to things that haven't even been discovered yet by science, deeper into the center. And the deeper you go into the center, the cell, as it expands all around you like the universe, you're able to go even deeper and deeper. The deeper you go into the center, the more expansive it becomes all around you, the more unlimited in space and time it becomes all around you, until you begin to realize it's endless, it's unlimited. The same sense of vastness, of intelligence, of unlimited possibilities. As you go deeper and deeper forever, and it would still continue to expand all around you. In this center here, totally free, with all of the intelligence that you truly are at your deepest and highest levels, all available here. It's always here, always has been, at the essence of your being, beyond the physical. Here now, available to you. So take a nice, easy breath. And imagine breathing in all that's here for you. It's unimportant for you to know what it is. Trust it and simply breathe it in, knowing that it's here to assist you with things perhaps beyond what you had even thought about, to make adjustments that are beyond your cognitive ability. Things that can feed your soul, so to speak. Things that nourish you from within. And you realize this place, this universe inside of you is the same as the one you experienced in the vastness. It's all the same because it's you. You are the universe. That's right. And the universe is you. In a moment, as you return from this exploration, you can feel confident that your mind and your body, that amazing design and that amazing connection, will continue to serve you in ways that perhaps you had never even imagined. So that from this point on, out into the future, the only thing for you to do as you begin to emerge back into your awareness of your physical body, the only thing for you to do is to watch, to expect, to trust, and to become aware of anything and everything that's a part of you being more of what you are and what you've always been in healthy, positive, intelligent ways. So become aware of your body again and your breathing. And you all know that long after you leave this process, the processing continues. That's right, behind the scenes, 24 hours a day, and especially tonight while you sleep. So you may want to revisit some of these thoughts or some new thoughts so that you can know and learn and continue to guide your destiny. You control where to send your thoughts. You know this. And most hypnotists are taught to count up from 1 to 5, at least in the old century. And it's a nice tradition sometimes. And I know that all of you can find a fun way to bring yourself back with all of what you've learned and gathered to serve you. And you know that most of what you've gathered on this journey is outside of your conscious awareness. I always think it's a nice idea to thank your creative mind for all that it's doing for you. It loves to help you be the best that you can be. So go ahead and thank it in your own way now. As I say 1, because you're the only one who decides what's right for you. 2, achieve wonderful balance and order in every area of your life. 3, mind, body, spirit. 4, your highest good on every level of your being. And 5, coming back to your place among what would have been 5 fellow wonderful new medical hypnosis students. And yet there are 6, 7, I've lost count. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Bringing yourself back. And if I don't turn this music off, I won't be coming back to join. So I'm going to turn it off now. Oh my goodness. Welcome back. So, how is everybody? Are you all able to talk? What happened?
Spacey.
Spacey. Spacey is kind of that's where I like to live, actually. In space. So when I bring my clients back from an experience, we don't want them to analyze or anything, do the break state maybe or something, but I do have a question that I usually ask, and it goes something like this. Anything interesting, unexpected, or unusual, or special that happened or that you're aware of during that? Because remember, if they're aware of something, that means their conscious mind was aware. If they say they were unaware of anything, I get excited because I know they really got out of the way. But I am always curious of anything you are aware of without, of course, judging it or dissecting it or analyzing it too much, because, it's the dream world. It's the creative imagination world. Anybody have something interesting? Or I always like those unexpected things because, if your client says something unexpected came up that you didn't say anything about, it's significant, don't you? Even if neither of you know why or how it's significant. I know that their unconscious is only giving them an experience to help with what they're there for. So your mind knows what you're here for beyond even what you've told it so far. So anything interesting or unusual or unexpected or just special? Sean.
Interesting energy, almost like little comets going into my chest, around my heart, then into my body, then out. It was just like a whirlwind of what.
Did you say comets?
Yeah, you know how a comet has a tail?
Oh, okay.
Light?
Yeah.
It's like trailing but fast,
Cool.
like shooting stars, we could say then.
Woohoo!
It was interesting. But it had a certain path, and I was like, okay.
And that just showed up.
Yep.
Cool.
Interesting.
Isn't our imagination amazing? The way it gives us something that is so interesting. Anybody else? Anybody? Nobody had any experience. How sad.
Well, it was kind of interesting for me when we kind of went into the outer space part, like all these images came to me, but I can't remember any of them. And
Oh,
then
wow.
went more into the cell, it was just like knowing things, but I can't really, like, I couldn't really decipher what those things were.
So
And
it
then
was
even before
yeah.
you said it, I could tell that they were the same place, but it was interesting how the information came in different ways.
Cool. Very good. Nice. Karen G, did you have anything you wanted to share with all of us?
It was relaxing, so it's kind of like putting me to sleep.
Kind of like, huh? Yeah. And like I said, if there's anything going on in your body that you do or you don't know about, there's usually things that could use a little adjustment at the very least. Just know that, just with that intention, that gave it some time to access maybe some assistance with that. How about you, Nizam? Anything interesting?
There was a different kind of silence which I haven't experienced of late. I think that was very much required.
That's beautiful. A different kind of silence. Nice. And Art, do you have any interesting?
I go so deep that I have no conscious awareness of anything. I just am out there. Just
Hypnotists are so easy. We're so
you
easy.
said wake up, and I heard that, but I didn't hear much of the rest of it. I'm sure it was beautiful, but I couldn't reproduce it because I didn't have a conscious awareness of
Good.
it.
And if your client says that, I hope you get really excited, because that means they really got out of the way.
Yeah.
That's our job. Get them out of the way.
Art, it sounds like a congressman. I have no recollection.
Yeah. Very
no
cool.
comment. No comment.
Oh my goodness gracious. So anyway, and I've never done that the same way twice. So it's almost like if I script it out, it's gonna, once it's on paper, it feels like it's limiting. I'm sure I won't do it with the script anyway in the future, but I love the whole idea of it. It takes you to places, for your client, especially if you do something like this with a client. And what I have found, I don't know if you've noticed this, but when I first started, they talked about having right, left brain people and how to deal with people that have a busy mind and all these things we learn. And what I discovered very early on was that when I had somebody come in that say, which one? I've obliterated it from a vocabulary to the point where I don't remember what. Right brain is the ones that are like analytical, right? Is that right?
That's left brain.
That's left brain. See, I've like trained it out of my language. But if they say, I'm a control person and I have to be in control and A-type personality, we used to say, those kind of things. If they come in like that and let's say they're a lawyer or they're an accountant, they're a real left brain kind of person, those are the people that once you get them there, you get rapport and they're following you and you get them into hypnosis. They're the ones that have the wildest things that happen. To me, that's been my experience. Or sometimes they have the experience like Art, but some people have to really practice at this before you get that good at going into trance, right? But that's why hypnotists are really good at it, because we do it a lot, both in our training and, going to conferences. And I love to be hypnotized by everybody I can find to hypnotize me, which is why when I'm at a conference, I always sit in the front row, because I know if they ask for a volunteer, my hand's going to go up first and I'm going to be up there, get a free little session, Why would you not do that? Because, I've always got something I can improve on.
I was about 30 years old before I knew that I had a left brain. I didn't realize that I had. But I went to work for DuPont. It was all chemists and engineers. And so I had to find my left brain in order to communicate with them,
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, it's good to have both, and I was in showbiz for 20 years. And then I went into aerospace engineering, which is where I met my husband. So, I had to put on that left brain cap for a while. And I realized I did have one. Yeah, it's nice to know it's there. It does come in handy once in a while. Probably should use it a little more than I do, if you ask my husband. But I think he should use his right brain a little more, but actually we're both perfect as we are. We fill in the space together. I like living in the abstract world, right? How about you all? You like being in hypnosis? Do you really enjoy being in hypnosis? Yeah. Yeah. I hope so, because you know, the more we work on ourselves, the better we are able to help our clients. What time is it? Oh my goodness, is it 4:30 already? You know what? I think we need
3:40.
What is it?
3:40.
3:40. Oh, thank goodness. Wow. I was gonna say if it's 4:30, I'm in trouble here. So all right, would you like to go now or do you want to wait? And I was gonna do Bruce Lipton next, but we don't have to.
Yeah,
Because it kind of ties in with the psychoneuroimmunology thing.
Yeah, I'll go after Bruce.
Okay. All right, let's see some Bruce. And like I said, I've shown more videos already in this class than I ever do, but I want you to experience him firsthand just for a few minutes here, so that he can pique your interest. You can see that?
Mm-hmm.
Bruce, when we were last talking to you, we were talking about the freedom of empowerment through information and what that does on a planetary level and on an individual level. Tell me a bit more about that.
Well, the concept of the new science, epigenetics, is a revolution, and it's a revolution for this. The old science, genetic control, which is what everybody's been programmed with, the genes are making decisions and genes are giving cancer and genes are causing diseases, gives the emphasis to the genes as if they were self-actualizing, meaning a gene turned on and made a decision. And we all buy that and we go, oh my God, the genes are controlling me. The new science reveals this is totally false. The whole belief that genes are active causative agents is totally false. The concept that there's a cancer gene. There is no cancer gene. There is no gene that causes cancer. And you say, well, wait, our whole science has emphasized the genes. I go, well, this is what the new science, epigenetics, is about. You say, well, genetics, epigenetics, it sounds the same to me. And I go, well, no, it's a revolution in this regard. When I say genetic control, the conventional wisdom, which is wrong, means control by genes. Genes turn on, genes turn off, and genes regulate. I say, what about epigenetics? I go, well, epi means above. So when I say epigenetic control, it literally says control above the genes. And all of a sudden I said, wait, what do you mean control above the genes? Well, simple point. A gene is a blueprint. It's nothing more than just a glorified blueprint to make proteins, which are the building blocks of the body. 100,000 different proteins. And so a gene is a blueprint to make these different 100,000 different building blocks.
So there you agree with science. You both agree it's a blueprint.
It's a blueprint to make
it's a starting block.
But now comes the interesting part, because most people say, oh, well, a gene turns on and a gene turns off. And I go, well, consider it this way. You go into an architect's office, she's working on a blueprint. You lean over her shoulder and you say, is your blueprint on or off? And of course she looks at you like, well, what are you talking about? It's a blueprint. There's no on and off. And I go, precisely. A gene is a blueprint. It has no on and off, but it could be read. Ah, well, all of a sudden I say, well, if you're reading a blueprint, who is reading the blueprint? The blueprint is not reading itself. And all of a sudden it says, oh, there's some other level of control, and it's above the genes, okay? And now what we recognize is this. It's environment, information picked up by an organism, and then the organism adjusts its biology to fit in the environment, automatically controlled by the environment. I mean, the simplest one is this. It's cold outside. You walk outside, nervous system feels it's cold. Its function is to do what? Activate the system to create warmer body, increase the metabolic activity, warm up the body.
You start shivering.
Keep you at the right temperature.
Yeah.
I say, the nervous system didn't control that. The temperature outside controlled that. I say, you go out in the summertime, completely different response. The warmth picked up by the nervous system causes the body to cool itself down, releasing perspiration, cooling off. Again, so my biology in that level is not controlled by genes, it's controlled how I respond to the environment. Well, it turns out virtually every aspect of our biology is controlled by reading the environment. And all of a sudden then it says, well, then the genes are not self-actualizing. No, the genes are engaged in response to the environment.
Okay, I want to take an example now that many people will be familiar with, and that is Angelina Jolie. I saw an extraordinary broadcast from you just after she had both breasts removed because of fear that her mother's cancer would come through to her genetically.
Right.
So what's another way of looking at that?
Well, the
Questioning
idea
that?
is, so let's look at how she came to the conclusion why I need a mastectomy. She said, oh, my mother had breast cancer, my grandmother had breast cancer, an aunt had breast cancer, and they all died. I have the breast cancer gene. Therefore, I'm next in line. I'm going to die. Why? Well, look at the family. When anybody's got it, they died. And then all of a sudden she says, well, I've got the gene. So since it causes breast cancer, if I remove my breast, I will avoid the problem. I go, well, that's really cool, except for this. The breast cancer gene, especially the one she has, BRCA1, does not cause breast cancer at all. And I'll give you a very important fact. Only 50% of the women that have the breast cancer gene ever get the cancer. Well, there's a very important fact. It says, wait, 50% of the women have this gene and don't get a cancer. The first thing is this, well, obviously the gene didn't cause cancer because
I'm going to tell you the easiest way to make money at home, and you 100% have never heard of this before. So most people.
That didn't happen before.
Just skip the ads and you'll do it.
Yeah, where is it though?
Right
It never
over,
been in the middle like that before.
on over to the right, a little bit more to the right.
Dropshipping, affiliate marketing, or selling physical products in Amazon.
It's funny because I
All
watched
of
the
those
whole
work
thing
really,
earlier.
really
There you go.
There we go.
50% of the women don't get the cancer. So having the gene itself is not the cause of the cancer. It's information above the gene. It's how you live, the stress levels, your fears, how you respond to life. This is what controls the genes.
Are you saying the fear of seeing her mother die, of seeing these relatives die, could in itself create within her body that condition?
100%, and it could kill her faster because fear, and people don't understand this, fear is the primary cause of illness on this planet. Up to 90% of doctor visits on this planet are due to stress. Well, what is stress? Stress means I'm in an environment or a situation I have no control over, I fear is going to threaten me. And so let's just resolve 90% of illness problems on the planet right now with this.
See, John, what I love about your practice is you look at the whole person, the whole body, and yet we were brought up in an almost mechanical age, as if the body's a machine and all the parts are separate.
Well, we're in a quantum age now, an information age, so we can recalibrate, so we can convert fear into love, for example. But there's a process to that, and the average person's going to take time to work through it. Yeah. And that's what I love about Bruce's last book called The Honeymoon Effect, because Jesus and Buddha taught about love and the health benefits of love, and Bruce is taking it from a slightly different direction in a different form of science.
Well, if we're talking about that, talk about the heart to me, Bruce. Tell me the place of the heart and how we do that where we're offended, hurt, scared.
Let's get to the very basics. You want to really get to the basics. The idea is when you talk heart, everyone goes, oh, pump, pushes blood around. I go, well, that is a job of the heart, but that's not the only job of the heart. There's a more important job of the heart. It's a sensory mechanism. It reads vibrational energy. And the nerves that go to the heart from the brain, the vagus nerve, more of the nerves in the vagus nerve are taking information from the heart and sending it to the brain than there are nerves taking information from the brain, sending it to the heart. So the heart is a source of sensory information. I said, well, what's it reading? Vibration. He goes, so what's the relevance of vibration? Energy, okay? And the answer is this. When you understand quantum physics, everything in the world is energy. Even matter is giving off energy. And I say, so what's the big deal about energy? And here's a simple point. Energy is life. You have energy, you got life. You got no energy, you got no life. So every organism, from the most primitive organism to the most advanced organism on this planet, has been designed to read the energy. Why? It's a gauge to say, if my energy is going down, that means I'm losing my vitality. If my energy is going up, I'm gaining vitality. So an organism has a device, the heart, which will read the energy of the field. And the relevance is this. When we make decisions, we should be using our vibration as the monitor. We have a tendency to use our brain to make rational decisions. I go, well, that's a very difficult way of reading it because the energy is the clearest thing. Are you getting more energy from doing this or going there than if you did that and went there? And why is it relevant? Where you go is you go toward the energy. Okay, now all of a sudden we're sounding like so new agey, but let's add some words to this because people have experienced energy, but they didn't know it, yet they refer to it as what? Good vibes, bad vibes. I go, yes, everyone experiences that. Good vibes is like, oh, I'm in a place and all of a sudden I have more energy than I had before. I'm very excited. I got more energy, more life. What does it mean? The environment you're in has energy that supports your energy, so the two come together, you get more energy, good vibes.
This is why we love falling in love. We love jobs that fulfill our need.
Because they give us vitality.
Yes.
But then I say, what about bad vibes? I say, well, look, you've probably been someplace, let's say in a dark night in a city, you don't know where you are, and you're walking, and all of a sudden you feel like your energy has disappeared. You feel vulnerable, weak, frail. Why? The energy is disappearing. It's called bad vibes. I say, what does that represent? It says, in this environment, you're not being supported. Your life is not being supported because it's taking away your energy. The most primitive organism just reads good vibes, bad vibes. Good vibes, I'm going that way. Bad vibes, I'm not going that way. And basically, the whole plan of life is really based on reading the energy. If we would do the same, we'd be as successful as the most primitive organisms in doing that.
Let's talk in future programs, Bruce, about how we can do that more, how we can
it's
touch
very important. It's the secret language that all organisms have and the one that we don't even acknowledge.
It's fascinating. Thank you, Bruce Lipton.
You know, my wife's like, what'd you do?
These are really short. So because he follows up on that in this little next clip, I'm going to do one more. As soon as I get past this
After, 6
commercial.
months of doing this, she's seeing all the changes that are happening. And she says, I want to do this.
So we can get the follow-up to that.
Bruce Lipton, when we last talked, you were talking about the place of the heart and the energy of the heart. And then I loved it when you actually referred to these airy-fairy New Age terms like love, and you wanted to bring it down. Actually, the New Age and quantum physics, science, are now meeting, aren't they? The New Age used to be dismissed and called nonsense, but now science is catching up, if you like. What do you think of that?
Well, this is the most important change in our perspective of science, simply based on this. Our conventional science, especially medicine, is based on what is called Newtonian physics. And Newtonian physics is an understanding of the world based on just studying the physical world. It was a science that said, you don't have to worry about invisible stuff in here. That's not relevant to you. Only worry about the physical things. The body is a physical machine. It's controlled by physical chemicals, physical genes, and we live in a physical world.
And this was from Victorian England. This is when the Industrial Revolution happened. Everything was a machine, wasn't it?
Well, and basically, it was very necessary for science to take this approach for a simple reason. Because if it started talking about the invisible, it was stepping on the toes of the church. And that's what separated physics from metaphysics. Metaphysics says, oh, the invisible realm, spirit, and all that stuff. Well, science says, look, we can understand life without going into metaphysics. We'll just focus on the physics, the Newtonian physics. So all of biology and all of medicine is based on a physical machine run by chemicals and robots and genes and blah, 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 blah. And then we find out in quantum physics in 1925, it said, wait a minute. The human body looks like it's made out of matter. Everything in here that's physical looks like it's made out of matter. And I go, it's an illusion. Because when you look at the atoms that make it up, and the atoms are supposed to be the physical particles, when you take that atom apart and you find, oh, there are things inside, electrons, protons, neutrons. Yeah, I say, yeah, those are smaller particles. I say, but then what quantum physics said, well, what was inside the electron, proton, and neutron? And the world changed. Because what was inside was nothing physical at all. It was energy vortices, like little nano tornadoes of energy.
Like space, it's space with...
Well, basically it is. So all of a sudden I say, what we see as matter is only just another form of energy. It's invisible energy. And you say, well, wait a minute, Lipton, I can see you on the screen. You obviously are here. And I go, if we turn the lights off in the studio, you won't see me. And everybody goes, well, that sounds foolish. And I go, you know, here's what the point was. The only way you can see anything that's physical is you have to have the lights on. I said, but why is that? And I said, because the photons of light coming from the source hit the surface of the energy and then are reflected back. So I'm invisible except for the surface. I said, yeah, but the surface is invisible except for the photons that are coming from the light and bouncing back. So I can see you with the lights on. But I can't see you with the lights off. Why? Because it was the photons that gave me the visual image. And underneath that layer of photons, there's nothing but energy on there. If I could take off the film of the outside where photons are and you looked at me, it would be an invisible screen. I am made out of energy. The table is made out of energy. But the important part about it is as long as light's hitting it, I can see it. So it's a unique form of energy.
So it's a little bit like a pixelated screen. If I could really see you as you are, Bruce, you'd be a lot of little pixelated
Of
molecules.
energy units, but not even molecules. They're just energy vortices, like little nano tornadoes. And this is where the difference is, because A, you can see me because the lights are on. Then you say, yeah, but in the dark, I can come up and say, oh, I can feel where you are. So I feel you, you must be physical. And I go, energy force. In other words, a tornado is an energy force field. And I say, yeah, guess what? If you try to drive a car through a tornado and you drive right up 100 kilometers per hour up to the tornado, guess what? It'll be the same as hitting a stone wall, yet there's nothing physical there. You hit a force field and the force pushes back. And so the atoms that make up my body are nano tornadoes. There's a force field on them. So when I try to push through your energy, my energy is buffered by yours pushed back. So I'm pushing on you, I feel you, but the fact is, I'm just feeling the energy of where you are.
So now I want you to take this right down into the individual, what is inside that creates me as me, Bruce, and you as Bruce.
Ooh,
What makes Liz and Bruce?
A very interesting topic into itself, because the first thing we have to recognize is, let's go back to quantum physics for a minute, because that ties us back to the New Age. The New Age says, oh, energy interacts with my physical body. Old vision. No, physical body affected by physical things. So therefore, we don't talk about energy. Quantum physics says, no, everything is energy. So the invisible energy that surrounds us, cell phones, television broadcasts, radio broadcasts, coming through this room right now, are entangling with my energy. And all of a sudden, what we now know from quantum physics, that the energy of the field can shape the physical structure of matter. And all of a sudden it says, wait, new physics, energy is the sole governing agency of the particle. Particle is matter. The energy, invisible, is the sole governing agency of matter. All of a sudden, quantum physics says, you know what you left out as Newtonian physics? You left out the invisible field. Now it turns out, not only is the visible field present, but it is more powerful in influencing you than the physical field. And all of a sudden, so let's add the last definition to tie it off, and that is, so what does physics call the field? What's the definition of the field, the energy around us? And here it is, definition of field. Invisible, moving forces that influence the physical world, okay? Yes. Then I say, coincidence. Couple thousand years, give me the definition of spirit. Invisible, moving forces that influence the physical world. So spiritual understanding was left out of the scientific equation because we ignored the energy. Quantum physics comes back in and says, what you left out, what other people used to call spirit, is the invisible forces that influence us. So the new biology is what? Based on the invisible stuff that we've left out of the equation. How do you feel about something? And things like that.
And this, John, is what you're doing so much in
that's where mind-body medicine works, energy medicine works, even ozone, which is very rich in negative ions. So we're using field physics science, which is a very, very inexpensive way of getting massive outcomes very quickly.
But it's the new frontier of medicine.
It's a new frontier.
Oh, absolutely. See, because conventional medicine has been locked into the physical model. So it's your physical body, then if I want to give you a medicine, it has to be a physical medicine to affect a physical body. Interesting, and I get a chance to say it because I know it from the heart. The pharmaceutical industry sells physical medicine. They can't sell energy. You can't put it in a capsule. You can't put it in a tablet. So the idea is, if energy becomes a source of healing, is it of any interest to the pharmaceutical industry? Zero. I can't sell it to you. It's free. Where am I going to make money? So guess what? The money from the pharmaceutical industry, which is one of the biggest industries on the entire planet, is suppressing the knowledge of energy healing and energy because it's a business model. I can't sell it, so let's don't talk about it. So in medical school, which is controlled mainly by the money from this industry, this topic is not even really discussed very much because it is counter to the business interest of the pharmaceutical industry.
That's fascinating, and yet more and more people like me are trying the ozones and the and the other ways, the less tangible ways of healing our bodies and finding incredible results. We'll talk more about this, Bruce, in the next program.
Well, and I just want to say, as we close off, this is why I'm so excited about John's work, because John's work is saying, look, this other field has been left out because of interests of other people, but it's the most important field because it is, according to quantum physics, the source of control. So energy medicine and energy healing and vibration and all that is the new frontier.
But it's completely and absolutely science-based. Many people don't understand the science. Nonetheless, it's science-based. E equals mc squared, which is similar to what Bruce is saying, energy,
physics,
matter,
yes.
light, photons. Einstein put it together over 110 years ago. The science is there. We just need to understand it and apply it tangibly and for positive benefits.
Wonderful. Thank you both. Thank you, Bruce.
Pretty cool, huh?
Okay, I finally found what boosts my metabolism, and it's not
Oops.
crazy workout or fad diet. The real secret was cutting out a hate.
How do I get rid of these people?
So-called healthy food. I would even guess this ingredient is hiding in your kitchen
I
right
have to
now.
close that, I
I
guess.
can remember being a child.
There we go. So, wanted you to experience, if you hadn't already, a little bit of Bruce Lipton. Can you see where that fits into everything we've been talking about, though? Isn't it interesting? The whole evolution of healing, it's almost like it's come full circle, hasn't it? And the science caught up, just like I was talking about earlier. I'm glad he said that in there. I had missed that part earlier. I spot checked it, but I didn't listen to the whole thing. So, any comments, anything you'd like to say or talk about from that? Yeah, Sean.
It's an interesting concept when we get recognition like time 11/11. People become aware of something, and when a collective group of people become aware of something, their energy goes towards it, and you start to feel it like an hour, a certain day that people pray. So that's energy going out. And when you start to look at like the modern medicine, they're suppressing the energy flow, but they're also activating the negative energy around us by what they're talking about in fear. So it's a real interesting quagmire of all these things going on at once, and how much of it is becoming fearful based people and how much of it are the rest of us looking at it becoming stronger, which creates that divide right now that, I mean, I'm noticing anyways.
Very astute observation, I would say. Yes. Yeah. Because we get it, don't we? We understand, or at least we're beginning to. We're working on understanding it. And it's pretty powerful. It's exciting to me, and yet it can be a little frustrating when you realize how powerful the person's ability could be for self-healing, given the right instruction, given the right guidance, information, whatever you want to say. And yet it is being suppressed for financial or whatever reasons, But, that's what we have to deal with. And in a way, in a strange, weird way, it works in our favor as a hypnotherapist because people don't understand it for the most part. And they walk out of our office wondering what on earth is happening to me. Why is this so different than everything else that I've done? What is it that's going on here? So, again, it's up to us to educate people and the medical industry. There's a lot of great people in medicine that still are in it because they really do want to help people. And many people get disillusioned. And I've known a lot of people, I'm sure you have too, Art, that were medical doctors, internal medicine doctors, surgeons, that all got out of it just for that reason. They got discouraged because of the way the profession was run that had nothing to do with why they went into it. Yeah, Sean?
The interesting book that you held up about the water crystals.
Yeah.
If you think about, what are we made up of? 80% water?
Yep, that's the one.
So how is that energy that's affecting one crystal affecting the water inside of us, creating the same type of things with that negativity?
Exactly.
If water, that's the interesting thing.
Well, and it's just like, I love the way Bruce said, good vibes and bad vibes. That's from our era, right? And it really is when you've got the good vibrations in the environment, which means people you surround yourself with, the thoughts you think, You know, when you get into Bruce Lipton's books, he talks about the environment of the cell isn't just the environment coming in from the outside environment. It's the biggest influencer on the cell is the environment of the thoughts that you're thinking. Because remember, it's not, reality isn't that. Reality is not the pollen and the sunshine and the, you know, whatever else people think of as things affecting the body. It's the perception. It doesn't have any meaning until the person puts meaning on it. Most of that we were taught growing up. So people are afraid to go in the sun in my day because, you know, oh, it's going to do this, give me skin cancer or something, you know, and they sneeze once or twice in the spring. Oh, I must have allergies. And they start taking pills. You know, it's all, most of it is taught. And the statistics on how effective the placebos are, it should be all that anybody should need to hear to understand the mind is the most powerful influence. Doesn't mean we can't get help. I believe in anything that works, that's not, you know, detrimental to my health. And yet my, you know, I'm still at 71, not taking a single medication. I don't plan to, you know, even when I go to the dentist, I don't use anesthesia or pain meds or anything. And I want it to stay that way as long as possible, but I still believe that there are times when people need those things. They need them most of the time because they think they need them, though, and that's proven. So, and again, we don't get into that as medical hypnotherapists. That is not our realm. It's not our scope of practice. And we can still know it and know that we can still help those people beyond whatever traditional medicine has offered them. And because the mind is the most powerful influence. That's why one of the first things they found decades ago that hypnosis was really great for was for the side effects of chemotherapy and radiation for cancer patients. Because what we can do with people who are getting treatment, who are getting medications, we can help their body assimilate it better. And that's what they found decades ago. And that's in all the journals. I was seeing that before I saw hardly anything else about, you know, the other aspects of what hypnotherapy can be helpful for. So we can help whatever the treatment they're getting work better and help their body assimilate whatever, you know, they have been putting into that body in a safer way. And we can help their body flush, you know, medications out of their system once they've received whatever benefit might be there for them and all of that. So there's just, again, anything someone has been diagnosed for and is sent to you, you can help them because it is all energy. And because stress is, I still hold to the idea I came to very early in working with people, that what I'm really dealing with every single client is stress. When I, you know, all of the peripheral stuff and symptoms and all of the fears and doubts and limiting beliefs and all whatever else, at the center to me is stress. And that, like Bruce said, that's basically fear. It might be a tiny stress, but when they come to us, it's usually bigger than they even realize. Because again, we're not usually the first person they've seen, and they usually didn't have their physical ailment starting yesterday or last week. It's usually been around a while. So that's stress and the fears and all the negativity that they get, all those bad vibrations from the medical industry. And living in a world of this is wrong with you and we're going to do this to you and you have to go here for a test and talk to this specialist and take this medication. You know, they become absorbed in an entire atmosphere. Their cells are in an atmosphere of negative vibrations. And we can offset that to a large extent, thankfully. We can help them offset some of that. So anything you want to add, Art?
Yeah, well, I have a whole thing on cells here. If you want me to start talking about that, I can. Yeah.
How much time do you need? Because I don't know when our next, it's only a little after 4, right?
Just 4, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I think everybody okay, not taking a break for how long? Are you going to be about an hour?
Yeah, about an hour, but we can take a break first if you want. But
or we can do it in the middle if there's a breaking point.
Sure. Oh yeah, we can break
Usually we would take a break somewhere between, what is it, 4, a little after 4 now?
Yeah.
4:30, 4:45. But if you want to, if they can keep going and you can, then that's good for me. But, you know, somebody let us know if you're, you know, we don't want anybody to be uncomfortable here.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, go ahead and take off with it.
Okay, so early on when I started medical hypnotherapy, I had people coming in that had all manner of difficulties they were dealing with health-wise. And one of my early clients asked me a very interesting question. They said, well, I don't understand if my body could do what it did for me, how come I had to come see you in order to get that to happen? I said, I have no idea. And I guess your conscious mind has no idea either, or you wouldn't be asking me. So let me hypnotize you and ask you the question, because I'd love to know what your unconscious mind thinks about that. And so I did, and I asked the question and I got an answer, and I started hypnotizing. As I was hypnotizing all my next couple of years worth, I guess, of medical clients, I asked the question. The same answer kept coming back over and over and over. Can you guess what the answer was? Why does a client have to come to you to get their body to do something that it already knows how to do? Anybody got an idea? Yes.
It has to remember, and we bring back the memory for it to work with it. The knowledge is already there. They just forgot about it.
Yeah, could be forgetting it. The answer I got back was, I didn't do it because nobody asked me to. And I started thinking about that. I think, wow, how often has the doctor ever said, would you mind please getting well now? You know, they never say anything like that. It's, what's your symptom? Here's a pill, or we're going to have to do surgery. And that's all they know how to talk about is pharmaceuticals and surgery. And so what I realized that we have an opportunity and unique, I think, in the health field, that we know how to help people learn the language so that they can talk directly to their own unconscious mind. And I think we're the only ones that do that. And so when we have to ask our unconscious to do it, if the conscious mind doesn't know how to do it, we would have done it already. And so I just thought, what a unique opportunity we have. And so my practice is built at kind of a strange one in that I see clients usually one time. That session lasts anywhere from 3 to 4 hours. And as Patty mentioned before, it has lots of PowerPoint slides in it. But there's not me giving a speech with PowerPoint slides. It's a way to direct content of things that I want them to know about how their mind-body system works, or how we think it works, and also information I need to collect from them. And I say, look, at the end of this session, I'm going to go back to my recording studio and I'm going to make a sound file for you about 30 minutes long. It'll have some nice dreamy music on it and it'll be nice. And what I want you to do is I want you to listen to this for 65 consecutive nights as you're going to sleep. So you don't have to take time out of your busy day to listen to this 30-minute recording. You start the recording, turn off the light, and go to sleep. And what I know is that I'm going to catch them as they leave their beta state. I'm doing a progressive relaxation. That's my favorite induction process. And as they're in alpha theta, I'm catching them in the 2 hypnotic brainwave states. And then if they go to sleep during that recording somewhere, their unconscious didn't go to sleep. It's the conscious mind that goes to sleep. And it's like what happened to me just now when Patty was talking. My conscious mind just went, and it was gone. I had no idea what was going on. But my unconscious got every bit of it. And so I know that 30-minute recording is going in. Now, what I've gathered is, what do you want to hear me say to you to resolve the issue that you've got right now? So I'm making notes like crazy and I'm using their language, however they say it, that's the way I want to say it back. I say, I'm gathering data so I'll know what to put on the CD. And what I'm doing is constructing a little subroutine or set of subroutines that I'm installing directly into their neurological patterns in their unconscious mind, so that the new behaviors, both their external physical behaviors, as well as their mental, emotional, spiritual, social, financial, whatever kind of behaviors else that may be involved, operate off of subroutines. Almost everything we do is some kind of a subroutine. We all learned how to drive a car. Well, we didn't know how to drive when we were young. We didn't know that we didn't know how, and didn't bother us at all. All of a sudden we get to be a teenager, oh, I want to learn how to drive a car. So now I have to do something in what we call learning a new skill that involves something called practice. Well, what practice is repetition. What I'm putting on that CD is repetition, because that's the way you transfer information from your conscious mind into your unconscious, by doing it over and over and over. The unconscious loves patterns. That's why one of the most powerful things we can do when somebody has a problem is do a pattern interrupt. That's the fundamental behind a lot of the protocols that we use. Is if I say I have a pain in my right shoulder here, my neurology knows exactly what that is. And when we do what Patty taught us yesterday, well, what color is it? Well, what shape is it? Well, how much does it weigh? Is it hot or cold? Is it heavy or light? Is it a particular color, whatever? We're trying to discover what their neurological system has encoded as right shoulder pain. Now, if I can interrupt that significantly enough, I will put their neurology into a tailspin, and it says, okay, you just screwed up my program here so bad. I don't know what to do now, because now this thing, I had a client one time that had knee surgery, and he had hot red ball pulsating underneath his knee, on the back of his knee. And I said, move it up to the top of your knee and change it from a ball to a box. And it's not red anymore, it's light blue, and it's not hot anymore, it's cold. And it doesn't pulsate at all, it just sits there. Well, all of a sudden I've screwed up his neurology to the point where it says, look, I knew how to represent pain, and now you've messed that all up, and I don't know what this new thing means. And so I said, well, this is what it means. And I tell him it means healing. And so the neurologist said, okay, good. That works for me, and I have to repeat that enough, because the neurology is looking for a pattern. If it hears it one time, it may not get it. But if it hears it over and over and over, it'll say, oh, okay, I got it. I got the new program. So that's what we do when we learn how to drive a car. What we're doing is teaching our unconscious how to drive the car, so that we can get in and do other stuff and not have to think about it anymore. We can listen to the radio and carry a conversation and think about where we're going and what we're going to do when we get there and all. So all these drivers out there, I don't want to scare you, but they're all driving in a hypnotic trance, and it works just great, unless there's an emergency, in which case the conscious will take over. Somebody swerves in front of you, you got to hit the brakes all of a sudden. That wasn't part of the program that you do every day, but it's there, so when you need it. And as soon as that calms down, your heart's probably still going bang, 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 but pretty soon you're back to automatic driving. You're not thinking about it anymore, you just drive it automatically. So I got interested in the whole thing about behaviors. And then I realized after, particularly after hearing Bruce Lipton and reading The Biology of Belief, his Bible to me is just a beautiful story about how we evolved from single cell creatures into multi-celled, and then, into specialized cells, and all these ways that he described. It's just a wonderful story. I realized that there were things about cells that were different. They don't all live the same length of time. And I heard who's the Indian doctor that writes a whole lot about health and I
Dr.
can't-
Chopra?
Yes, Deepak Chopra. He says there's not a cell in your body that was here 10 years ago. And there's not a cell in your body now that will be here 10 years from now. And so I'm listening to that, I'm thinking, if that's true, how can anybody have a disease that lasts more than 10 years? There are no cells left that knew anything about that. Now, they've all died and been replaced by something else. And that's caused by the fact of a process called apoptosis, which is programmed cell death. APOPTOSIS, apoptosis. And I sent this to Patty, and Patty, you're welcome to send this out to everybody if you want to. The lifespan of human cells. It was just everywhere I could find anything about the lifespan of a cell on the internet. I just put it all on a single Word document. And I found out, for example, the pancreas cells live about a year. So I'm thinking, okay, if a pancreas cell gets diseased, it must, and the disease lasts more than a year, it must be that the cells that were in the pancreas, when new pancreas cells came along, they had to get a briefing on what they were supposed to do from somewhere. You know, how do they know what to do? Well, they were probably getting a briefing from the cells that had cancer. And then they said, okay, I'll start acting like you. And so they acted like a cell with cancer. And so even though it was replaced, it wasn't replaced with the healthy one. So I use that idea that Patty mentioned earlier, the master control room, where you have this book of you in perfect health, and it's got trillions of pages in this book. There's one for every cell in your body. We have 30 trillion cells in our body. And so I say, look, we're going to have a meeting every day. All the new cells that come in, I don't want you talking to the cell you're replacing at all. Don't pay any attention to it. I want you to go to this book and you find the page and it says, here's what you're supposed to do. Here's how you operate. And that's when you come back and then you be that kind of cell. Now we're getting fresh new pancreas cells that come in, or liver, or whatever, you know, the part of our body that may have, particularly with cancer. And so then I decided, well, a lot of the problem with health that we seem to have is there's a breakdown in the communication pattern between cells. They're not learning from pure truth. They're learning from some contaminated version of it. And so I gotta come in with some sort of a new idea, but what am I going to tell them to do? So we've got people with autoimmune system disease, for example. That's why your body's immune system is attacking your own body's cells. Well, that makes no sense to me at all. How in the world would that happen? So I don't know if you remember stories maybe of World War I. The front lines on the battlefield got real messed up, and there'd be enemy incursions into our front lines, and we'd penetrate their front lines, and there was an area where it was really not a clean line between the two. And so what they developed was a challenge and response system. So somebody would, in an American foxhole, would hear somebody say, "Hey, bunch of Americans over here, you guys doing okay?" And so what they were supposed to do was to say, "New York Yankee." And the response was apple pie. Well, if they came out and said, Cleveland Indians or Boston Red Sox or something, they'd say, have a hand grenade on us. You know, you're not Americans. You've got somebody who speaks pretty good English over there, but you're not really on our side. So it was a challenge response where if you made the challenge, if you didn't get the right response back, you knew that wasn't you. Well, all of our cells have something called a self marker on it. So there's all of Sean's cells have I am Sean on every one of his cells, you know, or I am Stephanie, or I'm Karanjit, or I am Nizam, I'm Patty, I'm Art. And so what must happen is that these cells that roam around, they're part of the immune system, that are doing this challenge and response. They're T cells, and they're saying, do you belong here or not? And so if they get back the right response, they say, okay, I'll leave you alone. Well, in this case, they're getting back a response. It says, yeah, I'm you. And said, no, I don't believe you. I'm going to attack. You know, and they go after, and that's your own cell. Somehow they've gotten confused about who's you and who's not you, because they're designed to attack the cells that aren't you. So I thought, well, one of the things I can do is to say, look, I only know about 5 senses, and you probably got way more ways to tell than that. But if you're using a visual system, you can see these cells, and they look like you, or they look like they're not you, and they really are, and you attack them and you're making a mistake, you need a better system of identifying. If you're using, they smell, you know, add another one to it. Say, do they smell like you? Do they taste like you? Do they sound like you? Do they feel like you? So add some more elements to this identification system, and then you won't be making this mistake. And I've had real good luck with people with autoimmune system that all of a sudden it doesn't work anymore. Now, I've added a request to please change the way you figure out whether this is me or not me. And I don't know what they do. I have no idea what the cell's response is to that, but I know they are responding. So then I got to thinking, well, cells must be able to hear me talking. And certainly they can. We know that we have 30 trillion cells, according to Bruce Lipton. And all of them need the same 4 things. They need food, they need water, they need oxygen, and they need waste removal. And that's every cell in your body needs that. And it's kind of the same things we need as humans. We need food and water and oxygen and to get the waste removed from our system. So if we got 30 trillion cells and 4 functions, that's 120 trillion operations that the unconscious mind is on a first name basis with every one of these cells, saying, you need a little food, you need a little water, you need the garbage taken out, or what, you know, let me know what you need, and I'll get that for you. I'll bring, with capillaries, I'll bring food and oxygen and hydration, and they'll carry off the waste products, or this carbon dioxide or whatever it might be, and I'll transfer oxygen in. So the capacity, I guess the whole point of this, the capacity of the unconscious mind, we have no idea what it's capable of. It runs 7 systems, and probably more than that, in the background: digestive, reproductive, immune, circulatory, respiratory, endocrine, neurological systems. All of these systems are running without any involvement of us. You know, the unconscious mind is the mind of the body. It's running all that stuff. It blinks our eyes, it beats our heart, it breathes for us, it regulates our temperature 98.6 and does what it needs to do to keep that going. And balance and proprioceptive sense. This tells me, I know because of my proprioceptive sense, that my body is leaning over to the right. And if I straighten up, I know that it's straight. And if I go this way, I know that I'm leaning to the left. If that sense gets messed up, we're dizzy and we get off balance and we fall down a lot because that sense has been interfered with too much. So I just got real curious about cells. And I thought, that's where I want to focus my attention in the medical area, because I think there's work that can be done there. We're just discovering through people like Bruce Lipton how cells work. And he was taught when he went to biology class that the brain of the cell is the nucleus. And so he gets his PhD, and he's created a stir in the biological community because he went around giving speeches saying Watson and Crick were wrong. Well, they won a new Nobel Prize for the work they did in cellular operation. And he said, you know, they said things go from DNA to RNA, which is a carbon copy of the DNA, to protein, and it manufactures the proteins that we need to live. And it was a one-way street. And Bruce Lipton said, not true. The environment influences us. So it goes protein, RNA, DNA. It goes back up the other direction. And the biological community said, you are out of your mind. Get out of the field. We don't even want, you're a heretic, you're a loose cannon. And he said, I realized this because I was sitting in the lab one day and I had a whole bunch of Petri dishes with cells in them. And I thought, I'm going to suck the nucleus out and see what happens. I'm just curious about, you know. So he did that. And he comes back the next day, cells are doing great. Comes back the next day, cells are doing great. And that went on for weeks. And finally, they started dying. And he realized, well, what's happening is they're not reproducing. So the nucleus is the gonads of the cell. It didn't have anything to do with the brain. And so he's looking around, he said, well, then where is the brain? Because there's nothing but a bunch of cytoplasm in here and a few little other cellular ingredients. And there wasn't anything else there. And he said, I don't understand how, you know, there's got to be a brain here somewhere because I don't know of any creature that can live without a brain. So he, you know, does some more experiments and found out the brain of the cell is the cell wall. That's where the brain is. And then he realized, well, certainly that would be where it is because that's the part that interacts with the environment. And that's what brains do. They tell us what's going on. You know, there's food over here, there's danger over there. Well, I'll go toward the food and away from the danger. And that's how cellular intelligence works. That was a heretical thing for him to say that the brain of the cell was in the wall too, you know. So he's overcome a lot of obstacles in the biological community.